Hey, Kevin. Hey, thank you for signing on and speaking to me about Willy's Wonderland,
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
and also commendation to you for your recovery. Your publicist sent me an article about that
Yeah.
Corona thing. That
Thanks, pal. So glad to see you. Seriously. I'm out of the hospital. It was a real hard battle, but I beat it, man. I beat
did
it.
it. Did you leave the hospital in time for your premiere, your own virtual premiere or whatever it
Yeah,
was?
I did. I got here. My son turned 16 last Thursday, and I got here Wednesday night. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I caught mine late March, and I was hospitalized for 6 days.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, and it was rough. It wasn't because of the virus itself. It was because it was
Uh-huh.
it was so new. I was like the first 10 people in my county to get it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so all I had was just like local news trying to contact me about it. And for some
Wow.
unknown reason, everybody thinks I'm like an expert at
Yeah.
that stuff. So everybody wanted to talk. But now, millions of people caught it. So
Yeah.
now nobody
Yeah.
needs to talk to me about the virus. But
Well,
I
you and me are survivors, brother.
that's
All right.
right. That's
We
right.
are.
Just out of curiosity, how many days did you have to stay in the hospital?
Oh, buddy. About 2 weeks.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I went in on a Thursday. I was feeling sick 3 days before, 4 days, 5 or 6. My birthday was January 24th. I was watching the football games, and even a couple days before that, I was feeling really bad. But the Monday and Tuesday, I had like podcast interviews, and I had some interviews on the phone. I was telling my wife, my wife's a nurse, and I was like, Mary, you got to get me. I can't cough. Like I'll look like an idiot, right? So I'm like, you got to help me. So I was working on my breathing, and I was working on my coughing, and I was taking lounges and drinking hot tea, and it was really weird because like I had an interview on the phone,
Hmm.
and I was talking a lot about COVID, and I was talking about how we're all in our homes hiding from this invisible enemy, this bug or whatever virus. We really feel kind of helpless. And here's kind of what's cool about Willie's is you got the janitor coming in and cleaning house with the animatronics. And it's kind of a fantasy, but we'll kind of maybe live vicariously through the janitor. It kind of makes you feel good. I started talking a lot about that. And it's just so weird, brother, because it's like COVID was killing me at that time. And I had no idea,
Yeah.
and I was pushing it. I finished those podcasts, and I was just spent. And then the next day, I woke up in the morning and I said, I don't want to live, man. I can't breathe. I can't do anything. And so my wife took me to the ER. And so that Thursday, I was there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday they put me into ICU. And it's so tough, man. You're hearing people talk about people don't make it out of the ICU. I heard a nurse say they could count on two hands who gets out of the ICU.
Mm.
And so I'm going through CAT scans and X-rays, and so I get to the ICU Sunday, and just waiting for some good news because I had COVID pneumonia, so there were like blood polyps in my heart, and no news came, and I had so many things, so many amazing nurses and doctors, and they're like, "Can we pray for you?" And which was great, and but it's like, man, when someone says, "Can they pray for you?" You need those prayers.
Yeah.
And it was a tough fight, man. Proning. They tell you to prone. They said a lot of patients don't listen to them, and I had this IV specialist came in that Sunday, and he hooked me up with my IVs, and he said, my father-in-law Gary passed away from COVID in December. He didn't even believe in it. He was in the hospital, and he's called his uh, girlfriend to pick him up. Just said, I want out of here. He was a heavy smoker, heavy drinker, and he didn't make it to the front door, and he passed out. And
Wow.
gone. And he said, Kevin, listen to the doctors, do what they tell you. And he said, and then he asked if he could pray for me. And that was like the first real big like wake up call. So I would prone every night on my stomach with that tube in, just head 90-degree cranked, the worst, but I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's funny, I kept thinking about my movie with the janitor, and Willy and all that. And it's just great friends, family got me through with texts, and it was something else. But I'm here.
You're a survivor.
Yeah,
That's
I am, buddy. I am.
That's a story to tell. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about Willy's Wonderland, because
let's talk about something cool.
this is a fresh new start for you, because I was looking through your filmography. You haven't directed since 2007's the Third Nail. So what actually brought you back into the industry?
So I worked on, just like a lot of people, you work on projects and you think they're gonna get greenlit or whatever, and some do and then some fall apart, so I worked on many movies after that, and they just, for some reason, they just didn't happen. And a friend of mine, producer friend of mine, Jeremy Daniel Davis, brought me the script to Willy's, and he optioned it from Geo Parsons. And he brought me the script, and he's like, Kev, I really think this is something that you'll like. And I read it and I immediately loved it. And I saw, Sam Raimi's one of my favorite filmmakers. It's like I saw Evil Dead, I saw 80s horror, I saw vintage, I'm a huge pop culture fan. I collect comics and I still collect, Star Wars figures. Like I just saw it all there, and the whole movie kind of just clicked to me. And I was really excited. And I thought, what a unique original script. And so we partnered up, and we went and got Nick.
Wow.
And he was the only one that we thought would for the role. And I knew that Nick, I had a gut feeling that he would really get this movie, because it's a scary movie on some degree in terms of an actor when you have no dialogue, and for some reason I just felt in my gut that Nick was the right guy, and so did Jeremy. And so that's really kind of how it happened.
Because it was so many years. I know you had a lot of projects, but it must be gratifying to be back at the helm again. But is it like riding a bike if you've been gone so long?
Oh, that's a really good question. What's funny is a lot of these movies that I was working on, I got to the point of like storyboarding, pre-production, so what's interesting about Willy's is I knew, I didn't have I had 20 days to shoot. And so I knew that visually, I wanted to make a visually precise movie. And what I mean by that is every shot I did a shot list for. So I had a 70-page, I call it the Willy's Bible. And because it wasn't a movie where you go in and go, hey, what are we thinking today, guys? Hey, you know what are the actors feeling? Let's see let's put the camera here. Like, it wasn't that way. It was, you're going to be here, we're going to hit this lane, the camera's going to fly here, And so I really prepared a lot for Willy's, because I knew I only had 20 days. But before that, on the other projects that I had, I prepared as well.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of preparation. Even little things like with Willy's, it's like, if you notice some of the shots, like inside the oven or the fridge cam, when he puts the pop in, the punch pop and stuff, you have to saw the back of the fridge out, to get the camera in. And you can't show up the day and go, all right, cool, let's do an interior of the fridge, camera here, it's like, that's going to take hours, so you had to know what you were doing, to get everybody ready. But riding a bike, that's really interesting. Every movie's different, and every movie has its challenges. This movie was interesting too, because we had to get the creatures started before we were in pre-production,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't a movie where it's like, well, you wait till the funding drops and everything. Okay, now we go into pre-production. Now we start, working on making our movie. We had to get the creatures done way before that, or we wouldn't make it in time. So, like I said, every movie has its challenges, and it was a very unique set of circumstances on Willy's. So
now, speaking of the creatures themselves,
yeah,
I love the fact that you went with the practical effects with the creatures.
yeah.
Obviously, that decision came early. Why did you guys chose basically the practical effects animatronics over CGI? Because a lot of directors would have just went with CGI.
I love practical effects. Again, I'm a child from the 80s, right? So when the 80s was around, of course we had Star Wars in the late 70s, things like that. And effects started really jumping at that point with ILM and everything. But all the horror movies and like again, Evil Dead and Return of the Living Dead and all those cool movies that we all liked, they were all practical effects, and it's funny. I talked to a lot of my friends before shooting Willy's, and I said, give me 5 things you want to see out of this movie. And all of them said was practical effects. I think that people are so tired of CG, and CG is great if it's done right. And I love the way Nolan does it, where, of course, he can afford to do it, but he's earned that right. That he accentuates the models and the live action and the practical effects with CG, and that's the kind of thing that we kind of did with Willy's. I also knew, CG budget with creatures and stuff like that would have been just way too expensive for our movie. And there's just something about feeling and touching the animatronics, when you go to a Chuck E. Cheese, it's like they're there. That's not CG,
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. So we had 8 creatures, and we made Ozzy was a puppet, but the rest were suits, and we had stunt people in the suits. There was a great SNL skit a couple years back, and Tom Hanks was the host. And it's just, I love this skit. And they're in a carnival, like atmosphere, and Tom Hanks and I think Bill Hader, and they're doing the movements, and then they come out with an axe, trying to, kill the people in the ride, like the Tunnel of Love ride. And I remember watching that, and I was like, we could do this. We could pull this off. We could pull off with dancers, stunt people, or really good actors. We get the suits and we get the movements, and we can do this. And I was really excited, because you can't build animatronics like an R2D2 or something on our budget, when we'd be sitting there all day, one breaks down or something, you're cooked, right? So it had to be practical. And along with that, I wanted to be practical with pretty much everything. The black gunk, as much as we could. Nighty Night with a sword, that's a trick. A Texas switch that we did with the drain snake, with the stunts. I wanted as much practical as we could. And I was also afraid of, like, I didn't want cheesy CG, but I didn't want Star Wars CG either, because our movie is kind of cheesy. It's a throwback, like I said, to the 80s, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between that kind of CG and just bad CG, right? And so we just had to accentuate some of the shots. And that included, like, taking the crew reflection out of the mirror of Nick's glasses, right? There was some of that we just had to take out. That's hard sometimes, We didn't have a visual effects supervisor on set. Justin, who did our DIT, he was great, wonderful guy, and he helped with some things, but I didn't plan for visual effects. I didn't plan for any action sequences for visual effects, so they were all practical. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I did actually enjoy was I have never seen Nick Cage do so much cleaning.
That's good. You could watch him clean for hours, man. He's great.
Right?
You know?
Obviously that wasn't really Nick Cage's hands cleaning and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How did you guys pull it off in terms of like basically your set decoration? Did you actually like had a clean set and then dirty it up, or you went the opposite direction, dirty up and then clean it out?
Great question. So that was one of the hard parts and the challenges of the schedule, because you're sitting there going, clean kitchen, clean this. Okay, now it's dirty, and once it goes, the other way, you can't bring it back, right? So we started with we shot the ending. So the first week of principal photography, we're doing stuff off the locations, off the set, out of Willy's, okay? Outside of Willy's, the sheriff, the kids in the RV, stuff like that. But the second week, the starting was clean set, clean Willy's. So I shot the ending when he, Freebird basically.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge, going back and forth, making sure, especially with the narrative and the story points, like, okay, everything's clean here, but this has got to be dirty here and stuff. So I remember walking into the bathroom going, good Lord. I mean, the art department did such a great job, And I was like, could you imagine now going back and trying to get it clean? I mean, it was so hard. So yeah, that was a challenge, the schedule of clean and dirty. And so we shot, like I said, the stuff of Willy's clean, the ending right up front.
Absolutely. Now, Nick, I was telling a friend of mine, I think this is like one of Nick Cage's most challenging roles, is because he doesn't even have a single line in the entire film. Was the original script, was it written where the janitor had no lines, or did when Nick Cage was brought on board, things changed and he wanted to have no lines?
He had no lines in the script except the last Willy scene. When he comes out to see Willy, he had one line. And I was like, okay, I wasn't a really fan of the line that was in there. And we tried a lot of different ones. And I was like, man, if we're going to do this movie and there's no dialogue, and then he says that one line, it's got to hit. And it's got to be like groovy, right? It's got to be something that you associate when you think of Bruce Campbell of Evil Dead, right? Groovy, or yo, she bitch, let's go, stuff like that. So I was like, God, we got to, man. And that was a challenge, because I'm like, we got to figure that out. Well, when Nick got on board, he loved the movie so much. He's like, I don't want to say one thing. And it was so interesting because he said the janitor doesn't have to talk. There's no reason he needs to talk. And that was what he was coming from. And I thought, God, it's so interesting. And there were people that wanted us to do a line. There were people that wanted us to do a couple lines, and they're talking about maybe it'd be for the trailer. But we knew if we did lines, then they could use it, and it's like Nick did not want to do that at all. And I didn't either. And so my feeling was like, I was close to say, if we're going to do a line, I was thinking like it's birthday time or something. It would have been a cheesy thing. So that's why when he comes out, I do this push in, because I want the audience to go, oh, here it is. Here's the line. And it doesn't happen. And I just think that's really cool. I'm really happy we stuck to our guns and did it that way.
I think that's terrific. It makes Nick Cage use his facial expressions a lot more, and you got a terrific actor that could pull that off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, as for the stunts and the fight coordination, because the fact that this is much more of an indie horror movie, did Nick Cage have to do a lot of his own? Because I do know he has a fighting background, or did you actually have a lot of more stunt coordination? Because everyone in those suits were all stunt people.
Sure. Yeah, he had a stunt man, Lorenzo, great guy, wonderful guy. And Lorenzo, he's done a ton of movies with Nick. And so he was a stunt double. But Nick did a lot of his own stunts too. you know, and it's funny because like when he's sitting there crunching Siren Sarah with his knees, you don't think that's like a big deal. You know, he had knee pads. But that's hard, man, you know, sitting there and we're take after take on the knees, you know, stuff like that. So Nick did a lot of that himself. But then like, you know, some of the throws when he throws into the ball pit and stuff, that was stunts, you know. And Lorenzo did a fantastic job, you know. So, and Nick worked so hard on the stunts. I mean, he would, you know, before we even started shooting, he was at the gym and we were rehearsing how we were going to go with the animatronics and how he's going to fight, you know. So he worked really hard on all that.
Absolutely. I mean, after all, at one point he tried to play Superman. So
yeah, I know. I described it. I was telling one journalist, they're like, well, how do you describe Nick as the janitor? And I was like, I wanted to make a superhero without an S in the cape. You know, that's how I pictured the janitor, you know.
Yeah, I think that was a great choice to bring Nick in, and you know, and plus you got to direct Nick. That's
amazing.
A lot of things that a lot of directors don't have a chance to do. So,
and he's such not an icon, you know, and we can go on and on about his performances and how great he is. He's a wonderful human being. I mean, we got along so well. We had not one creative argument on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We saw eye to eye on it the whole way through. A couple of things he was like, hey, what do you think of this? I was like, yeah, it's great, you know. Yeah. I mean, consummate professional partner. Couldn't have asked. I was spoiled. It really was. You know what is great about Nick too was we would bring a second team in, you know, to set up the camera and everything. And sometimes Nick would just come in and watch, and he'd come in and hold the can like punch pop, right? So got to make sure the punch pops to the lens or whatever. He would just come in and do it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, well, let's go to his trailer now. We're ready for Nick to come, and he gets out of his trailer. He was so involved, always there, you know.
That's awesome. Kevin, one of the things that I love the fact is that this gives me Chuck E. Cheese nightmares because of the music and the songs. Could you talk about that? Because at this point I could still hear that birthday song in my head, and it's just terrifying me.
Yeah. So the composer Emwa did an amazing job, and we talked before shooting. I was telling him how I wanted Chuck E. Cheese birthday theme, but then I wanted to be through the movie and change and be kind of a John Carpenter-y, and then turn it into, you know, more horror, and then a more slow, and so that was always the agenda. I wanted a good theme, so he wrote that theme before we shot. So we had the birthday song on set, and we were playing it, you know, on some of the shots. What was so cool about that was, just like you just said, the crew said they couldn't get it out of their head. And I remember meeting Nick for the first time. We were doing a wardrobe and checking his shirts out and the jacket, and I showed him the birthday song. Emwa took it and put it on a old Chuck E. Cheese commercial, and he put the birthday song on there. And Nick loved it, and the crew was just like, they loved it. It was so funny because there were times where it's like we're shooting and it's like, all right, enough of the birthday song, let's just get this shot, you know, because like we don't need to play it all the time. Like it just stuck in people's heads, you know. You know, when I talked to Emwa about the score, I always wanted to be a John Carpenter score. I love John Carpenter, you know, and I want to be electronic, and I want to have like a pulse to it, a beat, and I wanted to have that birthday theme interwoven throughout the movie, of course, with all the other cool children's songs.
Yeah,
that he did, you know. So birthday time, good stuff.
I have to commend all the other songs are terrific too. So that is
definitely
great. Well, I know I've taken a lot of your time here already, Kevin, but I want to just address one more thing. Obviously,
sure.
I'm very happy that you recovered, but
Thank you.
this is a year long. This is almost a year that we've been in this pandemic. But during the times where you're trying to isolate, how are you staying sane and creative during all this time?
Well, it was great. We wrapped February 28th in Georgia, and the pandemic hit. I came back March 1st, and working on post this whole time has been that. And now I'm reading scripts and I'm working on projects, and I'm getting excited, for the next project, the next go around. I'm so thrilled that the audience seems to really dig Willy's Wonderland, and I have 4 kids, 2 teenagers and 2 5 and a 7-year-old boy. My 5 and 7-year-old boys, even though of course Willy's is adults, but they love the creatures so much, they draw them for me all the time. So every day they're giving me cards of them, and it's just wonderful. And then my kids, my teenagers, they did watch parties with their friends, and it's like I had an epiphany. Although I knew where I was going, but I really want to make movies like Willy's Wonderland. I know they're not going to win Academy Awards. I know people are going to say, "Are you crazy? You gotta, it's just terrible." Willy's Wonderland is not for everyone. But if you like the trailer, if you like Willy's Wonderland, the title in itself, Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah.
So I want to make genre movies. I want to make fun movies. I think this pandemic's going to go on for a while. We know that. The political stuff is just crazy. And I think people need an escape. They need to get away. And what better way to do that than Willy's? And seeing some of these audiences' reaction on the internet, it's such a beautiful thing. It really is,
Yeah.
So I really want to make movies for fun, for people to just have fun. And that's what Willy's is.
I think you brought a great movie at a great time, and just for the record, me and my friends, we had a outdoor watch party.
That's awesome!
Right after the UFC fight. So
yeah, it's great.
So that's what we did. So hey, thank you for bringing Willy's Wonderland, to the world, and I can't wait to speak to you again, hopefully on your next project.
Thank you, buddy. Really appreciate it. Really, taking the time, and thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.